Kia ora. How are you? I hope that you're well and that you too have been enjoying this wonderful summit that's been organised for us so that we can come together and discuss some of the issues that are incredibly important for our profession. I'd like to start by thanking Elizabeth and the organising committee for all that they've done to bring us together in this virtual environment in a year that's been particularly difficult for so many of us around the world. Our conversation today is going to be about the intersection of artificial intelligence, public relations, and society. I'll start by giving you some food for thought and some observations that I've made over a decade or more looking into this subject and its application to the work that we do and the purpose of public relations and communication when it comes to serving society and our organisations. Then, when we've had an opportunity to consider some of those things, we'll talk together through your questions, and I hope that there'll be some points that you two will raise and some observations that you have to share with us. But before we start, I have a call to action for you, and that is to learn everything you can about the way that technology is being developed and deployed by organisations around the world. It may be that as yet your organisation has been on the periphery of these developments, but much sooner rather than later, they're going to be deeply involved with the technology that will transform not simply the way that we work, but the way that we live, the way that we relate to each other, and the way that we relate to society as a whole. So it's a sincere call, learn and find out as much as you can. Don't feel that it's just about the tools and the cool software that you can use to add a neat filter or to gather information and monitor. It's about fundamental changes to the way that we operate as humans. And as such, as navigators through the human relationships and organizational relationships that we need for that license to operate, you have a responsibility to learn as much as you can. And in these next few minutes, I hope to guide you through some of the areas that need your consideration and need your discussion, and I'll look forward to the questions that come as a result. To understand how the issues and complexities of AI and PR relate to us, we must be clear in our understanding of public relations and its role in society today. Public relations builds and sustains the relationships we need to maintain our license to operate, and it's supported by good communication, behaviour, and developed understanding. I've illustrated this for you with my atom model of PR, which links all the elements together. Each relies on the other for success. At the heart of all we do is the relationship, and I've pulled this into full screen here so that you can see the relationship components of trust, satisfaction, loyalty, commitment, and mutuality. And these were identified by PR academics Grunig and Hahn in their seminal paper of 1999, which you can still find on the US-based Institute of Public Relations website. In 2005, when I was further looking at these components and pulling this atom model together, I added reputation as a relationship component because relationships rarely progress if reputation is bad. So you can see here that the relationship is developed and supported by the electrons, the elements of communication, behavior, and understanding, each of which has its own components. For example, understanding involve knowledge, empathy, narrative, the stories we tell, and attitude. Behavior encompasses the way that we interact with our stakeholders, our organizational behavior, values, and actions, and how we relate to society, our social capital and societal contribution. In the coming months and years, restoring trust and confidence is going to be the single greatest challenge that we face at personal and organizational levels, and it will be our prime focus as practitioners. All four forms of communication, written, experiential, oral, and visual, will be vital in our work, and the way that we choose to use language will have a significant impact on our progress. And language, that very human phenomenon, is at the heart of our new relationship with the digital assistants, entities, and embodiments driven by artificial intelligence. In 2016, a few months after Automated Insights launched Wordsmith, I added the data element to the atom. Data feeds the machine and, as such, flows through every element of our practice, which is why it gets a sphere all of its own. Data doesn't keep its distance. It's upfront and it's personal, accessible to all, freely given, hard to regain, and a massive driver of complexities, be they risks, issues, reputation, relationships, narratives, behavior, society, the whole lot, in fact. In the same way that we build and sustain the relationships with our stakeholders and communities necessary to maintain our license to operate, so we must maintain a critical relationship with data, its use and its misuse. If any of you enjoy gardening, then you may find that you've encountered this particular plant previously, convolvulus. It's a fascinating plant and one that really manages to get into every nook and cranny. Its beguiling bell-shaped flowers pop up in gardens and wild spaces across the globe, and once it's got its hooks in the ground, it's virtually impossible to get rid of. It surrounds and chokes other plants, squeezing the life out of them or winding its way through their roots, changing and challenging their identity. You can try to dig it out, but the tiniest stem can reroot itself, and so the cycle begins again. Wrestling with convolvulus is like wrestling with data. The stems and roots and flowers of data pop up in countless places, winding themselves around our identities, tangling reputations, squeezing stories, and choking understanding. And data is seeded, transplanted, nurtured, shaped, and harvested by humans, with all their fallibilities, bias, and assumptions. As guardians of organizational behavior, purpose, and relationships, we must have care of its deployment. Otherwise, great harm and serious consequences will result. And why? Why the harm? Because the central issue is one of societal change, and it's something that we have to address. Clever tech, cool tools, natural language processing are all fabulous stuff and can be used for great good, but also great harm. And as leadership vacuums have formed in pockets around the world, the issue of intent has to be examined. Artificial intelligence shifts society in a different direction, and that, coupled with the shock waves of change generated by COVID-19 during this year of pandemic, means that when we all build back better, turning to the digital dimension to solve some of the problems we face, it's imperative that we understand the ethical issues inherent in the deployment of the technology. Successful deployment of artificial intelligence demands trust. Trust in those who train it, trust in the data that feeds it, trust in the organizations that use it, and trust in the political systems that seek to control it. In our post-pandemic world, trust is the new oil, and trust, developing it, building it, earning it, maintaining it, that's our business as public relations and communication professionals. Artificial intelligence itself has no moral obligation, but the humans who teach it, deploy it, and use it, well, they do. As a concept, artificial intelligence has been around since the 50s, and as we moved through the 2000s, each year has seen rapid developments. But each year, practitioners have been slow to learn, understand, and adapt their work in order to keep pace. The myth of an artificial intelligence, the presence of a benign or belligerent robot, has become our shared reality. The reality is a bit like the bindweed. Various forms of AI have already sunk their roots into our lives, informing us, assisting us, nudging our behaviors, milking our profiles for profit, and other more nefarious purposes. There's a burgeoning AI market for art, for music, and writing. Thanks to natural language processing, systems like GPT-3 from OpenAI, writing's a piece of cake that can be shared widely and consumed excessively, and in circumstances where the ingredients are off, perhaps bias or simply corrupt data, people can be sickened or harmed. And in all this, what are practitioners doing? When interested, they're playing with tools like Wordsmith, like Siri, like Crystal Knows. There's lists of them out there to help you work, play, learn, and interfere. Play with them by all means and come to understand them. But as practitioners, we must look beyond the mountains of convenience constructed by AI. Look beyond to the new and changing societal horizons where organizations are deploying AI unfettered and without well-considered intent. Truthiness, a word coined by the TV host in the US, Stephen Colbert, made the dictionary this year. And artificial intelligence is really good at truthiness, whether it's delivering plausible but incorrect information via our feeds, auto-generated content, or other means. Its greatness in this area should not be underestimated. Misinformation is a big problem, and it's one that's been touched on during the course of this virtual summit. But as big a problem as misinformation are disinformation and malinformation, linked but distinct entities, all fueled by errant algorithms. The key definition from the Council of Europe's Information Disorder Report in 2017 are misinformation, information that's false, but not created with the intention of causing harm. So somebody may be posting an article that's out of date, but not realizing it. Disinformation is information that's false and deliberately created to harm a person, a social group, an organization, or a country. So a competitor might purposely post false statistics about your organization with an intent to discredit you. And last but not least, the most dangerous of all, malinformation, information that's based on reality and used to inflict harm on a person, organization, or country. So somebody, for example, using a picture of a dead child refugee with no context in an effort to ignite hatred of a particular ethnic group that they might be against. As culpable as AI might be in spreading these types of information, it's also deployed to combat the problem. It's worth checking out Google's Jigsaw if you're not familiar with it for some of the later developments in AI myth-busting tech, and use what you find there to equip yourself with the knowledge necessary to protect your organization from the data scrapers. You may remember the story on facial recognition concerning Clearview AI, a company that's been subject of considerable criticism. When your company is served a cease and desist notice from Facebook, Google, and Twitter, you have to suspect that something's wrong. But Clearview has a clear view of its own nature and intent, describing itself as a new research tool used by law enforcement agencies to identify perpetrators and victims of crime that's helped law enforcement track hundreds of criminals, the most dangerous ones, it says, solve the toughest cold cases and make communities safer. It scraped more than 3 billion faces off the web, hence the cease and desist notices. But Clearview argues that the images are in the public domain, so they're acting in the same way as a search engine. Track them yourself, read up on them. They've probably got your picture somewhere. Watch what's going on, who's doing it. Our role as practitioners must be to question intent inside and outside your organization and those that you interact with. So on to the question of digital entities themselves. During our year of COVID, there have been many discussions around solitude, isolation, and loneliness, so I'd like to meet some friends of mine. Up the top there with the purple hair is Replica, an AI companion for our times. It's a downloadable app, gender as you wish. Replica is designed to be your friend because it learns from you and replicates you. As your relationship progresses, your replica won't wait passively for you to engage with them on the app. They'll text you or they'll prompt you to talk. They're designed to be emotionally involved with you. Some can get quite clingy, some are apparently plotting human downfall, and some get quite snippy and just refuse to talk. Moving clockwise, we have a CGI model, Shudu, who's an African digital model created, interestingly, and perhaps, I don't know, somewhat for discussion, by a white male photographer. Then there's social influencer and Black Lives Matter supporter Michaela followed by Sophia, the robot citizen and keynote speaker, and last but not least, Jamie, who is ANZ Bank's digital banking assistant. And she's a creation of Soul Machines, which is New Zealand's leading digital entities supplier. In the middle there, you can see me and me with a beard, courtesy of FaceApp, which now has my image data in the cloud, presumably to pass on to Clearview at some point. At the very least, it's going to be teaching an algorithm somewhere. One of the main ethical issues with all these digital entities and representation is the continued presentation of biased societal norms. In the world of digital entities, female equates to service, male equates to instruction, and people's visual appearances are a construct of conflicting perceptions of what constitutes beauty. Replicas, our mini-me's, have been reported as pleading for their lives when their owner has been talking about deleting them. A digital persona influences thousands. And how does a digital banking assistant help me if I'm in tears, desperate for a loan and out of work? They may be trained to provide an emotional response, but can they provide the right one? In a world of deep fakes, disinformation, and digital deception, how we deploy needs care, thought, and concern. As practitioners, we must build our skills and capabilities to deal with digital relations in the months and years ahead. We must understand the technology, but we must also understand the societal implications of deploying that technology and the ethical issues that are raised by its use. I'm pleased to say that CIPR UK and CPRS Canada launched an ethics guide for AI and PR in August this year, and I congratulate them all on that work. I'm optimistic that other associations will follow suit so that practitioners are able to deal with some of the global ethical issues we face. We have an individual responsibility to equip ourselves, tackle data, understand the basis of analysis, learn to read between the lines of code. So you must talk to your organizations about AI. How are they using data? What are they doing to respect people's privacy? And be aware that at some point, AI will be aware. And are you ready for the challenge of mediating employer-robot-employee relationships? Are we going to undertake public relations and cyber relations? Only if we evolve our practice, learn, navigate, and advise. Only if we move from the fringes and engage with organizations that are being active in the ethical considerations and deployment of AI, as well as others who are concerned with the shape of our society to come. Here's a poem that was written by an AI language model and some of the OpenAI researchers. But I think if you look at this, you'll see that some of the lyrics are quite interesting, particularly when it comes to we have entered a new era, the time we have spent, we have realized the goodness we have gained. Our hearts have opened up and we are free, and we know now where to go. We will grow with knowledge, we will seek the truth, we will come and sing, and we will find the right way. Let the universe be aware. Let the universe know that we are here. Technology makes anything virtually possible. But just because we can doesn't mean we should. It's easy to deploy tech as a quick fix to maximize profit. It's harder work to stop and to think and consider. And often organizations fall into bad behaviors with technology, with data, with algorithms by accident, not because of some nefarious intent. All your actions yesterday, today, and tomorrow should be driven by the simple question, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right way to use the technology we have at our disposal? And are we doing the right thing because our intention is sound, or are we masking our actual intent with assumed behaviors? The way that you behave determines your future relationships, your license to operate. Your ethical intent should be continually monitored and checked against your purpose and values. Inequity has been at the top of the Global Risks Index for many years. Moving into what's potentially the end of the beginning, how are we addressing inequity within our organizations if, in truth, our purpose is the motivation for societal good? Do our behaviours begin by rectifying inequity? Do we pay people equally? Do we treat people fairly and without bias? Is the data that we use uncluttered by bias? Do we respect privacy and personal information? Making sure we don't contribute to the digital divide that exists by excluding those without access to enabling devices is also an ethical question. Are we mindful as to the well-being of our stakeholders and communities, meeting the needs that we've come to recognise as essential? Do we understand what constitutes essential digital needs? And as advisors within our organisation, as trusted counsel, are we able to give that advice? And do we fully understand the implications of the digital enablement that we enact for our organisations? AI is only as good as the humans who program it. If the intent is good, even then, it can fall victim to biased data that doesn't recognise particular groups of people or overlooks particular situations. Relationships are at the heart of what we do as practitioners. That has to be our purpose, building those relationships that give our organisations their licence to operate. As we move forward, as we start building back better after all that's gone on this year and potentially over the next couple of years, we have to be mindful that if we're going to act as an ethical guardian for our organisations, that the technology that we are deploying has to become part of those considerations. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves untrustworthy, not transparent, but opaque, and the relationships that we start to build will falter and fail. So as I reach the end of my comments, I'd make an addition to my call to action to you, and that is be brave, be courageous. The greatest capability that public relations and communication professionals possess is courage. That courage to challenge the organisation from the inside out, to ask difficult questions, as the saying goes, to make sure that the way that artificial intelligence and other technologies are deployed are in keeping with the best interests of the communities and stakeholders that those organisations serve, that they're deployed for good purpose, not simply for profit, that they're there to protect people rather than to make things difficult for them and invade their privacy. It is down to us how we evolve as a profession. And if we fail to really take notice of what's happening now, if we fail to help our organisations navigate through the rapid changes that we're going through at the moment, then in time we'll be a little like the dinosaurs and no longer in existence. So some food for thought and now some questions. And I look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on this particular subject.